You reach for her, expecting warmth in response, but all you feel is a cold politeness or weary irritation. She lets you hold her, but you can feel her body is tense, like a tightly wound string, her thoughts a million miles away. In that moment, every man over 40 feels the same icy pang in his heart. You think the spark is gone, blaming it on age, routine, or accumulated fatigue. You start looking for the problem in your physical shape or financial status. But the truth is much harsher and simpler. You lost this battle long before you ever touched her skin. You lost it the moment you decided that sex was only about the physics of bodies. Your main mistake is in the silence. You've become a mute lover who uses his hands, but has forgotten the most powerful tool of penetration nature has given us. You've forgotten that the path to her arousal lies not through tactile receptors, but through the auditory nerve. A woman is wired differently, and these aren't just words from romance novels, it's a harsh biological reality. While you remain silent or discuss mundane matters like grocery shopping and car repairs, her brain continues to operate in the mode of a controller, a mother, or an employee. In this mode, the function of desire simply doesn't exist. To flip that switch, you don't need expensive gifts or acrobatic skills. You need to learn how to talk. Not just to say words, but to use your voice as a physical weapon capable of changing the biochemistry of her brain. We will talk about how to penetrate her consciousness, creating images so vivid and wicked that her body will begin to respond with wetness and tremors long before you even get to the bedroom. This is an art that the greatest seducers in history mastered, and today we will dissect it, drawing on psychoacoustics and biology. But before we dive into this deep and dangerous topic, I want to address those who are used to getting the most out of life. Our channel is growing thanks to men who understand the value of quality information. You have the opportunity not just to be a viewer, but to become part of an exclusive circle by supporting the channel. This is an investment in developing content that is becoming sharper and more useful. Your support allows us to dig deeper and find tools of influence that others remain silent about. The support button is below this video, and I would be glad to see you among those who move us forward. And now, let's get back to how your voice can become a source of power. I must warn you, what you will hear today is not a set of pretty compliments. We will be breaking down techniques that act on the subconscious, bypassing logical filters. And at the very end of this material, I will reveal the secret of the verbal imprinting technique. This is a method that allows you to tie a woman's most powerful arousal to one specific word or intonation. It's like creating a start button that will work flawlessly for years. But for this technique to work, you must go through the entire process from start to finish and understand the foundation. Without understanding the basics, the magic won't work. So listen carefully and don't miss a single detail. We are beginning to rewire your approach to intimacy. Psychoacoustics of dominance. The physics of sound and vibration. Let's cut the poetry and look at the facts. Sound is not just abstract information, it is a physical wave that has weight, density, and impact. When you speak, you are literally touching a person from a distance, only you're doing it not with your fingers, but with air vibrations. For a woman, hearing is a channel directly connected to the limbic system of the brain. This is the ancient part responsible for emotions, fear, and, of course, sexual arousal. For her, sight is secondary, it is analytical. But hearing is a direct line to her instincts. And this is where the first rule of psychoacoustics comes into play. Frequency matters. The brain perceives low frequencies as a signal of safety, dominance, and a high concentration of the male hormone. In nature, large predators make low sounds. This is the law of evolution. A lion roars in a low tone, and this sound inspires awe. Small rodents squeak in a high pitch, and this causes only irritation or a hunting instinct, but certainly not a desire to submit. Most men make a fatal mistake when they try to be nice or please a woman. They unconsciously raise their voice, switching to a throat-based sound, a so-called fawning tenor. When you ask for a kiss in a high voice or fussily inquire if everything is okay, her ancient brain reads this in one way only. It sees not a male, but a child or a frightened creature that cannot provide safety. And if there is no safety, there is no relaxation. And without relaxation, a woman physically cannot become aroused. Her body remains dry and tense because your voice has signaled alarm. Your task is to lower your voice from your throat into your chest. This is called the subtone or chest register. When you speak from your chest, your voice creates a resonance. It's a light vibration that a woman feels not only with her ears, but also with her skin and even her internal organs. It works like a contactless massage. Imagine the difference between the sound of a cheap flute and the powerful rumble of an organ in an empty cathedral. The organ fills the entire space. Its sound is dense and enveloping. You must sound like an organ. To do this, you need to control your breathing and relax your vocal cords. A chest voice calms the female psyche, turns off her perpetual inner monologue about problems, and forces her to focus on you. This is the first step to taking a dominant position. You are not asking, you are broadcasting calm confidence through vibration. Experiments show that women subconsciously rate men with low voices as more sexually attractive and reliable, even if they can't see what they look like. So, before you say the first word in the bedroom or on a date, take a deep breath, lower your center of gravity, and speak from the depth of your chest. This is the foundation without which any words, no matter how dirty or correct, will sound pathetic and ridiculous. The second critical element of psychoacoustics is the rhythm and speed of your speech. Remember how people talk when they're nervous, afraid they won't have time to say everything, or trying to justify themselves. They rush. They swallow endings, stumble, and pause in the wrong places. Fast speech is a marker of low status. It's a signal that you don't value your own words and are afraid of being interrupted. In the context of seduction, haste is a libido killer. If you quickly whisper propositions in her ear, trying to get straight to the point, you look frantic. Frantic isn't arousing. Power over time is arousing. A person with power never rushes, because they know they will be listened to for as long as they see fit. You need to artificially slow down your speech by exactly half. It might feel strange to you at first, but for the listener, it creates a hypnotic effect. Slowing down your speech creates space for imagination. When you speak slowly, with deliberation, you give her brain time to process each word and paint a picture. We remember that female arousal is built on imagination. If you talk a mile a minute, she has no time to envision what you're talking about. You're just jamming the airwaves with informational noise. Pauses are not emptiness, they are the glue that binds your words to her desires. A pause before an important word enhances its effect tenfold. A pause after a touch allows her to feel that moment fully. Silence between phrases creates a tension that begs to be released. And it is in this tension that electricity is born. Learn to hold a pause while looking into her eyes, and you will see how her breathing changes. She will begin to wait for your next word as if it were a reward. The third element is the direction of your intonation. In the music of speech, there are two main directions, up and down. An upward intonation, where the voice rises at the end of a sentence, is characteristic of questions. It's the intonation of uncertainty, of seeking approval, of a request. When you say, "May I kiss you?" with a rising tone at the end, you're shifting the responsibility to her. You're making her make the decision, and that kills the moment. A downward intonation, where the voice goes down and places a firm period at the end, is the intonation of a statement, a command, and a fact. You are not asking, you are stating a reality. Even if you say a neutral phrase, but with a downward intonation, it sounds weighty. In bed and in foreplay, there should be no questions. There should only be statements. Instead of asking about her desire, you state your own. This fundamentally changes the power dynamic. You become the leader, and she the follower, which is exactly what's needed to trigger her natural instincts. Thus, your voice becomes an instrument for tuning her nervous system. You use a low timbre to give a sense of safety and strength. You slow down the rhythm to immerse her in a trance and give her time to fantasize. You use a downward intonation to lift the burden of responsibility from her and take control yourself. This is the physical foundation. Without it, any scripts or words we discuss later simply will not work. Imagine trying to play a brilliant symphony on an out-of-tune piano. Nothing will come of it. First, tune the instrument. And only when your voice sounds correct, deep, and commanding can we move on to filling that sound with meaning. We will move on to what specific pictures you need to paint in her head so that she forgets everything except your presence. But we will talk about that in the next section, where we will dissect the anatomy of the female imagination and understand why the famous Austrian doctor was right when he claimed that libido feeds on images, not facts. The anatomy of imagination. Why she loves through her ears. We are now moving to the very essence of female perception, to the mechanism that distinguishes their arousal from male arousal. For a man, arousal is most often a visual impulse. You see, you assess, and the mechanism is launched. It's a flash. For a woman, everything works differently. Her libido is not a flash, but a slow burn that requires fuel. And that fuel is not what she sees right now, but what she paints in her imagination. The great researchers of the human psyche proved 100 years ago that female desire is by its nature blind. It lives in the dark, behind closed eyes. That is precisely why a woman often closes her eyes during peak pleasure. She retreats into her inner world, where sensations mix with fantasies. Your task is to become the director of this internal cinema. If you just perform mechanical actions in silence, you leave her alone in the quiet with her mundane thoughts. You must fill her head with images that will crowd out everything else. Here we come to the main technique of this block, which can be called the spoiler effect. In normal life, nobody likes spoilers for movies, but in sex, it works in the exact opposite way. The unknown often causes anxiety and control. A woman thinks, what will he do now? How do I look? What if it's painful or uncomfortable? These thoughts kill passion. The spoiler technique is to describe in advance, in vivid detail, what you are going to do to her in a few minutes. You don't touch her. You just sit next to her, maybe in the car or at a restaurant table, and start narrating the script for the near future. You tell her, soon we'll be home, and I won't even let you take off your coat. I'll press you against the wall in the hallway. Take your hands and pin them behind your back, just to feel your complete helplessness. I will kiss your neck so slowly that you will start to go crazy with anticipation. What happens in her brain at this moment? It's pure neurobiology. Her mirror neurons are activated. When she hears a detailed description of an action, her brain begins to play out this scenario as if it were already happening in reality. For the subconscious, there is no difference between a vivid fantasy and reality. Her pulse quickens, blood rushes to her pelvis, her breathing becomes heavy. You haven't even touched her with a finger, but her body is already ready. It has already responded to your words. You have created a vacuum of expectation that she will want to fill with reality. This is the foreplay that men so often ignore. Foreplay doesn't start in the bedroom, it starts the moment you plant the seed of a wicked thought in her head. But there is a fine line here. The mistake many men make is to slide into vulgar anatomy or dry medical terms. Neither works. Dry terminology turns you into a gynecologist, while crude, unprepared profanity can scare her off and cause disgust if she isn't already warmed up. The secret to proper description is in the sensory details. Describe sensations, not organs. Use words that convey texture, temperature, pressure, and internal state. Words like wet, hot, tight, deep, trembling, defenseless, hard. Instead of saying, I want to have sex with you, say, I want to feel you tremble beneath me. I want to hear your breath catch as I go deeper. Feel the difference? The meaning is the same, but the second description creates a rich, for deep picture that she can fall into like a rabbit hole. Your voice must paint a picture where she is the main character of an erotic thriller. Women love to feel like a desired object. Not a subject who makes decisions, but the very object of your passion that you crave to possess. When describing the scenario, emphasize her reactions. Tell her how she is going to feel. Say, you will forget your own name. You will scratch my back. You will beg me not to stop. This is programming. You are giving her permission to be a bad girl, to be wild, to be loud. In her daily life, she is constrained by the frames of propriety, work, and motherhood. Your speech is the key that opens the cage and sets her inner animal free. And when you finally move from words to actions, her body will be grateful to you for having already warmed it up from the inside. The Lexicon of Power, the Dominance Dictionary. Now that we understand what to talk about, we need to figure out how exactly to structure our phrases. Words are the clothes for your thoughts. If you dress a powerful thought in the rags of uncertainty, it won't work. Most men, when communicating with women, use the passive voice and pleading constructions. They say, "Wouldn't you like to? Maybe we should. What do you think about?" This is the language of service, the language of a waiter who is afraid of displeasing a customer. But in bed, a woman doesn't want to see a waiter. She wants to see a man who knows what he wants and knows how to take it. The lexicon of power is built on the complete exclusion of the subjunctive mood. Forget words like would or could. They dilute your will. Instead of offering options, you must voice intentions. At the core of the language of dominance are action verbs. These are words that signify an irreversible process. To take, to press, to open, to enter, to make, to own. These are masculine verbs. They carry the energy of a vector aimed at a target. Compare two phrases. First, "You're so beautiful tonight. Maybe we should go to the bedroom?" Second, "Your beauty is driving me crazy. I want to take you right now." The first phrase is a compliment and a timid suggestion. The second phrase is a statement of fact and a declaration of intent. In the second case, you don't leave her the choice to refuse or agree, you simply inform her of an inevitable pleasure. And this lifts the burden of responsibility from her. She doesn't need to say yes. She just needs to surrender to your pressure, which is exactly what the female nature subconsciously craves. Another powerful layer of the lexicon is words of possession. The pronoun my has a magical effect. My girl, my woman, my property. When you say this in a low, affirmative tone, it activates her ancient instinct of belonging. In the modern world of equality, women are tired of being strong and independent. Somewhere deep inside, in that very shadow the psychoanalyst spoke of, lives a desire to belong to someone stronger. Someone who can take responsibility for her pleasure. By using words of possession, you are marking your territory. You are telling her subconscious, "You are safe, you are mine, I won't give you to anyone, and I know what to do with you." This creates a sense of security that is inextricably linked to the ability to relax and find release. But the lexicon of power is not just about verbs and pronouns. It is also the ability to call things by their names, removing shame. Culture has instilled in us a prohibition on dirty words. But sex is by its nature an animalistic, dirty process in the best sense of the word. It's an exchange of energy, smells, and animal sounds. If you try to describe this process in the literary language of an anatomy textbook, you kill all the magic. You sterilize the process. Don't be afraid to use rougher, more common names for actions and body parts, but do it with respect for your partner. The line is thin. You are not insulting her. You are calling things what they sound like in a moment of passion. This shows that you are not afraid of this dirtiness, that you accept her completely, with all her wicked desires. And when she hears that you accept this part of life without shame, she herself gets rid of her shame. However, context and calibration are critically important here. The dominance dictionary only works when it is backed by your internal state. If you say powerful words with a trembling voice, your eyes darting around the room, it will cause cognitive dissonance and laughter. Your words must be an extension of your gaze and your posture. You say come here not because you hope she will come, but because you are certain she wants to come. It's an internal axiom that requires no proof. Start introducing these words gradually. First, one confident statement instead of a question. Then, one possessive epithet. Watch her reaction. You will see her pupils dilate. This is a sign that you have hit the target. You have begun to speak the language that her ancient nature understands, bypassing social masks. Scenario mastery in daily life. Situational hypnosis. Now that we have the tool of the voice and a vocabulary of power, we need to learn how to apply it in the setting of everyday life. The biggest mistake is to think that arousal requires candles, rose petals, and a special time blocked off in the calendar called sex. A true master of verbal seduction starts the game long before the bedroom. He uses ordinary situations to create a contrast that hits the nerves harder than any aphrodisiac. Imagine this. You are at a dinner with friends or at a boring official reception. People are around, talking about politics or prices. She is sitting next to you, observing all the norms of propriety. And at that moment, you lean into her ear and, Without changing your calm facial expression, whisper a phrase from the dominant's arsenal. You tell her that she's not wearing any underwear, or how badly you want to be alone with her right now and make her scream. This contrast between the public setting and the intimate, dirty secret causes a massive adrenaline rush. Adrenaline and sexual arousal share a similar chemical nature. The danger of being overheard, the risk of being exposed, all of this intensifies the attraction. She sits at the table, continuing to smile at the guests, but her mind has already been blown. Her body begins to react. She shifts in her chair, her cheeks flush. You have created a secret world for her in which only the two of you exist. This is the public secret technique. It ties arousal to you as the source of this thrilling sensation. You become the one who can pull her out of boring reality at any moment and throw her into the abyss of passion without even touching her. Another powerful tool is remote control. We live in the digital age, and it's foolish not to use it. Most men text their partners, "Buy bread or I'll be late from work." This kills the masculine image. Start using messengers for warming her up. But don't send vulgar pictures, that's primitive. Send a text. Describe what you will do to her in the evening. Use the spoiler technique we discussed earlier. In the middle of her workday, write to her, "I'm sitting in a meeting right now and I can't think about anything but how your lips felt on me yesterday. Get ready. Tonight, I will show you no mercy. I want you to greet me already prepared." A message like this, received amidst office routine, acts like an electric shock. For the rest of the day, she won't be thinking about reports, but about the evening. She will carry this secret inside her, and by the time you return, she will be heated to the limit. You are controlling her state from a distance, simply by pressing buttons with words. This is the pinnacle of scenario mastery, turning daily life into an erotic thriller. Dinner is not just a meal, it's foreplay where you feed her from your fork, accompanying it with comments on how erotically she opens her mouth. A ride in an elevator is not just transportation, it's a chance to press her against the mirror and whisper a promise of a hot night before the doors open. Your life is filled with such micro moments. If you start filling them with the right words, you will see that she will stop complaining of headaches. On the contrary, she will seek any opportunity to be alone with you, because with you she feels alive, desired, and filled with emotion. And now that we have learned to manage the context, it is time to look into the darkest corners of her soul. In the next block, we will talk about what decent women really want and why they are afraid to admit it even to themselves. Shadow fantasies and forbidden topics. We are now entering territory where many men are afraid to even breathe. This is the territory of the so-called shadow. The Swiss psychoanalyst described the shadow as the part of our personality that we hide from society and even from ourselves because it seems wrong, dirty, or immoral. Every woman, especially one who wears the social mask of a perfect mother, a responsible employee, and a faithful wife, has a huge, pulsating shadow. And the more perfect her facade, the darker and deeper her secret desires. For centuries, society has taught women that they must be pure and chaste. But nature demands its due. Deep down, where instincts live, a woman often wants what she's afraid to confess even in confession. She wants to lose control. She wants to be treated not like a crystal vase, but as an object for the satisfaction of a harsh, masculine passion. Your mission as a man is to become the one person in the world with whom she can release this shadow without fear of judgment. This is the highest level of trust. If you can verbalize, give voice to her hidden fantasies, you will become a drug to her. She might dream of total domination, of roughness, of being put on display. But she will never, you hear me, never tell you this first. The fear of being seen as a promiscuous woman blocks her mouth. You must become the voice of her darkness. You must carefully, step by step, begin to describe these scenarios, lifting the burden of responsibility for these thoughts from her. You say, "I know that deep down you want to be a bad girl. I see how much you like it when I'm rough with you." You are legalizing her vice. The principle of provocation works here. By describing a situation that seems forbidden to her, you watch her reaction. For example, a scenario of a total takeover. You tell her that tonight you won't be asking for her desires, that you will simply take what belongs to you, and she will have to submit. For many women, Tired of making decisions at work and at home? This scenario is the most arousing of all. To shed responsibility. To become an object in the hands of a master. To surrender to the flow of another's will. This has nothing to do with real violence. It's a game in which she feels completely safe because she trusts you, but at the same time, she experiences the sharp thrill of being prey. Your words create a safe container for her madness. You say, "With me, anything is possible. With me, your dirtiness becomes pure energy." And when she understands that you are not judging her, but on the contrary, admiring her wickedness, her libido explodes like a volcano. Don't be afraid to touch on topics that seem taboo. Talk about other men, other women, public places. This doesn't mean you have to do it in reality. The brain doesn't see the difference. If you vividly describe to her how other men look at her and what they want to do to her, and then add that she belongs only to you, it will raise her self-esteem and arousal to the heavens. You confirm her desirability while simultaneously claiming your rights. This is an ancient biological mechanism of competition that triggers the lubrication process instantly. The main rule of working with the shadow is never laugh or judge, no matter what you hear or see in her reaction. If you allow yourself even one joke or reproach in response to her openness, she will slam that door shut forever, and you will go back to boring, scheduled marital duties. Safety techniques. Calibrating reactions. Everything we've discussed so far, the voice, dominance, dirty scenarios, is a powerful weapon. And a weapon must be handled with care to avoid harm. The line between arousing dominance and frightening aggression is very thin, and it's drawn not by your words, but by her feelings. You must become a master of calibration. Calibration is the constant reading of feedback from her body. You can't just turn on alpha male mode and push forward like a tank without looking at the road. You must be a sensitive predator. Look at her body. There are green light signals and red light signals. If you confuse them, you will destroy everything. Green light signals, which tell you to push harder and talk dirtier, are her breathing becomes heavy, ragged, or deep. Her pupils dilate, filling almost the entire iris. Her skin gets goosebumps or red patches appear on her chest area. This is the so-called sexual flush, a sure sign of arousal. She moves her body towards you or, conversely, freezes like a rabbit before a snake, but does not pull away. She bites her lips or parts her mouth. If you see these signs, it means your words are hitting the mark. Continue. Increase the pressure. Add more details. Her brain is now in a trance, and she is ready to follow your voice anywhere. Red light signals, when you must stop immediately and back off, are she physically shrinks, covering vital organs with her hands, stomach, chest, neck. She looks away and can't meet your gaze again. Her face expresses disgust or fear. She takes a step back or puts a hand out in front of her. If you notice this, stop. Do not try to push through. The mistake many men make is to perceive a no or fear as coquetry. But in the context of dominance, a mistake can cost you her trust. If you've gone too far, if your word was too dirty for her current state, take a step back. Change your tone to a softer, more reassuring one. Say something neutral. Restore her sense of safety. And only when she relaxes again can you try to approach from a different angle, but more gently. Another critical aspect of safety is congruence, meaning the consistency between your words and your nonverbal behavior. The most pathetic sight is a man trying to say powerful, dominant phrases while slouching, with his eyes darting, fiddling with a button, or speaking in a pleading tone. Women are natural lie detectors. If your words say, "I am your master," but your body says, "Please don't hurt me," she will sense the falsehood. This will cause not arousal, but laughter or pity. Before you open your mouth, you must adopt the appropriate posture. Straighten your shoulders, take up space, look her directly in the eye or at her lips. Your movements should be smooth and slow. Only when your body broadcasts confidence do your words acquire the weight of law. Words are the bullets, but your state of mind is the gunpowder. Without gunpowder, the bullet won't fly. The finale. The verbal imprinting technique. The final secret. And now we come to the reason you've listened to this material until the end. We come to a technique that borders on the black magic of neurolinguistic programming. This is the technique of creating a conditioned reflex, or anchoring. Recall the classic experiments by scientists on conditioned reflexes. A bell rings, saliva is produced. We will do the same thing, only instead of a bell, it will be your word, and instead of saliva, it will be the most powerful sexual arousal and lubrication. The method is simple but requires surgical precision. You need to catch the moment of a woman's peak pleasure. That exact moment when she is on the verge of orgasm, when her consciousness switches off and her body is trembling with pleasure. This is the moment of her brain's maximum plasticity. In this second, it is open to recording any program. It is precisely at this moment, at the absolute peak, that you must whisper one specific word or phrase into her ear. It must be a word that you don't use in everyday conversation about the weather. It could be a special name for her, or an imperative verb, or a specific dirty word that she likes. Say it with a special intonation, low, straight into her brain. Repeat it a few times during her orgasm. What happens? Her brain permanently links this sound with this sensation. You are creating a neural pathway. Sound equals pleasure. For the anchor to set, you need to repeat this procedure 5 or 10 times during different intimate acts. Always the same word. Always the same intonation. Always at the moment of peak pleasure. And once the anchor is set, you have a remote control in your hands. A month later, you could be sitting in a cafe, surrounded by people, or talking on the phone. You simply lean in and say that word with that exact intonation. Her body will instantly, reflexively, against her will, react with a flash of arousal. Her muscles will contract, her heart will beat faster, blood will rush to her cheeks. Because her brain will produce the recorded reaction. This is the ultimate power. The power to evoke desire with a single sound. This is what separates a master from an amateur. You don't ask for sex, you turn it on. But remember, this key belongs only to you, and it must be used responsibly. Don't wear out the effect with frequent, pointless use. Save it for moments when you are truly ready to go all the way. We have come a long way, from the physics of sound to the programming of reflexes. Now you know that silence is the enemy. You know that your voice is an instrument. You know how to paint pictures in her head and how to release her shadow. But knowledge without practice is dead. Starting today, without delay, try at least one element. Slow down your speech. Lower your voice. Give her a statement, not a compliment. See how her eyes change. And when you see that spark, you will realize that everything I have told you is true. Control the words, and you will control the world. Subscribe to the channel if you are ready for a real transformation, and hit the like button if this material has opened your eyes. See you in the next broadcast, where we will go even deeper into the psychology of influence.